Rumination feels like thinking, but it is not thinking. It is a loop. It is your brain trying to buy relief by repeating the same question in different words. You tell yourself you are analyzing, but what you are actually doing is scanning for control. You are trying to find the sentence, the explanation, the missing detail, the perfect interpretation that will finally let your body settle. And the reason it never works is because rumination is not an intelligence problem. It is a nervous system behavior. It is what a mind does when it believes uncertainty is dangerous and action is risky. So it chooses the one place that feels productive without requiring exposure: the mind. If you have ever been stuck replaying a conversation, replaying a message, replaying a mistake, replaying a decision you did not make fast enough, replaying someone who hurt you, replaying someone who left, replaying a future you can feel but cannot reach, I want you to hear this clearly. The loop is not asking for more thinking. The loop is asking for a different kind of certainty. Not certainty about the outcome, certainty about you. That is why the one thought that ends rumination is not a positive quote, and it is not a spiritual bypass. It is a mental move your brain cannot argue with. It is simply this: I do not need certainty, I need a decision. Say it again, and do not rush past it. I do not need certainty, I need a decision. That one sentence ends rumination because it attacks the hidden assumption under the loop. The assumption is that you are allowed to move only when you feel fully certain. But certainty is not the requirement for a stable life. Clarity is not something you wait for. Clarity is something you create by choosing and then watching what reality says. Reality gives feedback. Rumination does not. Rumination is a closed room where the same question echoes. Decision is a door. Decision creates data. Decision creates movement. Decision creates self-trust. Now, the moment you hear this, part of you will try to turn it into pressure. You will imagine a huge, irreversible choice, and your nervous system will resist. So let's make this accurate. A decision does not mean a permanent verdict. A decision means you choose what happens next. It can be small. It can be temporary. It can be a structured experiment. It can be a boundary. It can be a conversation. It can be a simple rule you follow for 7 days so your brain stops living inside maybes. Rumination thrives when your mind believes there are only extremes. Either I know for sure, or I do nothing. Either I am confident, or I stay stuck. Either I have the perfect answer, or I wait. That is the trap. Decisions break the trap because they move you out of verdict mode and into experiment mode. Instead of asking, what is the perfect answer? You ask, what is the next right action? Instead of asking, what does this mean? You ask, what do I do next? Instead of asking, what if I am wrong? You ask, what would I learn if I tried? And the moment you shift into learning, the loop loses heat. Because the loop is fueled by the demand for guarantee. Let's go deeper, so it actually holds when you are triggered. Rumination happens when two beliefs collide. This matters, and I am not safe to choose. When something feels high stakes, your mind tries to eliminate regret. It tries to eliminate being wrong. It tries to eliminate pain. So it keeps thinking, because thinking feels like prevention. The mind tells you that if you replay it enough times, you will find the angle that keeps you safe. But rumination is not prevention. It is delay disguised as intelligence. It postpones the emotional cost of choosing. And here is the part most people miss. Every postponement comes with a tiny relief. Your body softens for a second because the threat has been postponed. That relief becomes the reward. Then your brain learns a rule. When I feel pressure, avoidance saves me. Rumination becomes automatic because it is reinforced by relief. That is why telling yourself to stop thinking rarely works. You are trying to remove a behavior that your body experiences as protection. So we do not fight the loop. We change the job of the loop. We give your brain a better way to create safety. Now, let's make a clean distinction, because this one changes everything. Reflection versus rumination. Reflection produces a next step. Rumination produces more thinking. Reflection opens space. Rumination tightens space. Reflection ends with a plan or a standard. Rumination ends with fatigue. Reflection is connected to reality. Rumination is connected to imagined outcomes. Reflection asks, what is true and what is required? Rumination asks, why and what if? So if you want to catch it early, ask yourself one question in the moment. Is this thought creating an action, or is it creating more thinking? If it is creating more thinking, you are in rumination, and the exit is the sentence. I do not need certainty, I need a decision. Now, your brain will try to argue with this sentence. It will say, I cannot decide because I do not have enough information. I cannot decide because the stakes are high. I cannot decide because I need more time. I cannot decide because I do not trust myself. Good. That is the real content. Rumination often exists to hide one of three fears: the fear of being wrong, the fear of being judged, or the fear of losing something. The mind keeps thinking because thinking lets you avoid exposure. If you decide, you become visible. If you act, there is feedback. If you speak, there is response. If you move, there is outcome. Rumination protects your image by keeping you in potential. Potential feels clean. Reality is messy. Reality has consequences. So your mind chooses clean over real. That is the pattern. And this is why thoughtful, sensitive, intelligent people often get trapped the hardest. They can generate endless reasons that sound legitimate. This is not the right time. I need more information. I need to heal first. I need to be in a better headspace. I need to be more prepared. I need to fix one thing before I start the other. None of these reasons are obviously false. That is what makes rumination lethal. It is not a clear lie. It is a plausible story that protects you from the immediate emotional cost of moving. So the one thought ends rumination because it refuses the story. It says, we are not waiting for perfect conditions, we are choosing the next move. Now, let's make the sentence even more powerful by showing you what it is really doing under the surface. It shifts you from outcome control to identity control. Rumination is outcome control. It is the attempt to guarantee the outcome before you move. Identity control is different. Identity control says, I cannot guarantee outcomes, but I can guarantee who I am while I move. I can guarantee that I act with integrity. I can guarantee that I follow through. I can guarantee that I do not abandon myself. Your nervous system calms down when it senses you have a protector. Most people think the protector is certainty. It is not. The protector is self-trust. So when you say, I do not need certainty, I need a decision, you are telling your nervous system, I am the protector. We will not stay trapped here. We will choose. Now, to keep this tight and practical, we have to address the real engine of rumination. Rumination is almost always a way to avoid feeling something fully. Under the loop, there is usually grief, fear, shame, anger, disappointment, loneliness, or the simple discomfort of not knowing. The mind tries to outthink the feeling, but feelings cannot be solved like math. They can only be processed by being felt and then acted on. This is why the loop feels like it eats hours. You are trying to complete an emotional process with cognitive tools. That is like trying to drink water with a fork. It keeps you busy, but it does not work. So when the loop begins, you do two things at once. You make a decision, and you let the feeling exist without trying to interpret it into safety. Because some feelings are not asking to be solved. They are asking to be metabolized. Now, what does a decision look like in real life when you are ruminating? It depends on the category. Most rumination collapses into three arenas. You are ruminating because there is a choice you are avoiding, a boundary you are avoiding, or a conversation you are avoiding. The mind loves the loop because the loop lets you avoid the moment where you might lose something or change something. If it is a choice, you stop trying to choose your entire life and you choose what happens next. Your brain will try to make it all or nothing. It will say, if I choose this path, I lock myself in forever. That is the loop talking. You choose the next step, not the final identity. If it is a boundary, the decision is not about being mean. It is about being clear. It is deciding what you will and will not participate in. Boundaries calm rumination because boundaries reduce ambiguity. Ambiguity is what keeps the brain scanning. If it is a conversation, the decision is not to rehearse forever. It is to speak cleanly once and then observe reality. Conversations create data. Rumination creates stories. Now, let's talk about the most common rumination arena. People, relationships, social situations, messages. Overthinking what someone meant. Overthinking why they did something. Overthinking what you should say. In these cases, rumination feels even more addictive because people are variables and you cannot control them. So your mind tries to control meaning. It tries to predict what they think. It tries to predict what will happen if you speak. But here is the adult truth. You cannot think your way into emotional safety with an unpredictable person. If your nervous system needs to ruminate to feel safe around someone, the environment is not safe, or your boundaries are not being enforced, or both. So the decision is often not the perfect message, it is your standard. It is whether you keep participating in ambiguity. It is whether you keep paying with your attention. It is whether you keep opening the door to the same pattern. This is why the sentence ends, rumination. It forces the real question. What decision am I avoiding? Am I avoiding deciding what this relationship requires? Am I avoiding deciding what access earns? Am I avoiding deciding what I will do if the behavior repeats? When you decide that, the loop loses oxygen because the brain senses you have a policy. Policies reduce scanning. Now I want to show you how the brain keeps you trapped by using the word why. Why is sticky because it sounds wise. Why did they do that? Why did it change? Why did they pull away? Why did they say that? The problem with why is that it invites endless interpretation. It invites mind reading. It invites fantasy. It invites blame. The grounding question is what? What did they do? What pattern repeated? What happened after closeness? What happened when I expressed a need? What happened when there was conflict? What happened when I asked for clarity? What questions turn feelings into data? Data reduces rumination because it replaces imagination with reality. So if you want a second sentence that ends rumination, pair the decision line with this. I replace why with what. I replace why with what. It is not cold, it is stabilizing. It stops your mind from negotiating with mystery. Now, another rumination trap is memory collecting. People tell themselves they are processing, but they are actually feeding the loop. They reread messages, rewatch videos, revisit photos, check activity, scan social media, revisit locations, replay playlists, ask mutual friends, look for signs. It feels like you are searching for closure, but it is feeding the open loop. Because every new cue becomes another frame in the movie, another thread to pull, another reason to keep thinking. If you want your rumination to drop, you cannot keep stimulating your brain with the thing it is already addicted to solving. You cannot stop replaying a movie while you keep watching trailers. So the decision sometimes is simple. I stop feeding this loop with new cues. Not forever, not as punishment, but as a nervous system boundary. This is one of the most underrated parts of ending rumination. You create stimulus boundaries. You decide what you do not consume. You decide what you do not check. You decide what you do not reread. That decision is not about willpower. It is about design. And design beats willpower. Now, people will ask, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I choose wrong and regret it? Here is the clean response. Not deciding is also a decision. It is a decision to stay in the current pattern. It is a decision to keep paying with your time and your attention. So the question is not, will I choose wrong? The question is, what does my indecision cost me? Rumination steals time in small units. 10 minutes here, 30 minutes there, a night of replay, a morning of checking, a week of waiting. Then it becomes a year. The loop steals years because it feels like you are working but you are not moving. You are staying emotionally active while your life stays still. That is why the sentence has to be followed by one behavior, even a small one. Because your brain believes behavior. It does not believe promises. It believes proof. Proof is what changes identity. When you act, you produce evidence. Evidence calms the brain because it replaces imagination with reality. Now, I want to make this even more interesting by telling you the one reason rumination returns even after you think you have learned the lesson. Rumination spikes when your identity is about to shift. You might notice it hits hardest right when you are about to move forward. Right when you start improving your routine. Right when you start getting your life back. Right when you start feeling okay. Right when you are about to send the application, publish the work, start the habit, leave the situation, end the relationship, have the conversation, set the boundary. The brain resists identity change. It prefers continuity, even if the continuity is painful. So it pulls you back into the familiar loop. This is why you can feel an urge to reanalyze right when you were doing better. That urge is not a sign. It is withdrawal. It is your nervous system trying to return to the old regulator. So when it hits, you do not treat it like a message. You treat it like a wave. You say, I do not need certainty. I need a decision. And then you choose a small action that proves you are the kind of person who moves even when your brain is loud. That one moment is how you break the pattern. Not with a dramatic overhaul, but with a calm refusal to negotiate with the loop. Now, Let's give this the structure it needs so it holds its scale. When rumination begins, your goal is not to solve the content. Your goal is to reduce loop time. You reduce loop time by creating edges. Rumination expands when it has no edges, so you give it a container. You allow a short window for reflection, and you end it with a decision. If you do not end it with a decision, your mind will keep calling it unfinished, and it will return later. So you set a rule. I reflect, then I decide. If the decision is small, good. Small decisions are how you build self-trust, and self-trust is the base of calm. People think they want certainty. Most people want self-trust. They want to relax inside themselves. Rumination prevents that because it teaches your brain you do not act, you only think. Now we need to talk about the hidden reward of rumination. Rumination keeps you feeling like a good person. It lets you feel responsible. It lets you feel deep. It lets you feel like you care. It lets you feel like you are trying. For many people, the loop is tied to morality. If I stop thinking about it, that means I did not care enough. If I stop analyzing, that means I am ignoring something important. If I move on, that means I am cold. That is an emotional trap. Ending rumination is not ending care. It is ending self-harm disguised as care. Care can be expressed through action, boundaries, and repair. Care does not require mental punishment. If you want a thought that ends rumination at the identity level, use this. Caring is not the same as circling. Caring is not the same as circling. Circling is what the mind does when it cannot tolerate an ending. Caring can exist with an ending. Now, I want to bring this into the body because your audience needs to feel it, not just understand it. Rumination has a body signature: tight chest, stomach pull, jaw tension, restlessness. That signature is your nervous system saying, unresolved. So here is the practical move that ends it faster. When you catch the loop, you stop asking your brain for permission to calm down. You give your body a signal of safety. A slower exhale, a longer pause, a grounded posture, a small movement, a sip of water, a walk. Something that tells your system, we are not in danger, we are in a decision. Then you make the decision, even if it is simple. The brain thinks it needs a perfect plan. The nervous system needs a clear direction. Direction reduces scanning. That is why people feel calm after they finally decide, even if the decision is hard. The nervous system loves decisions. Decisions reduce ambiguity. Ambiguity is the fuel of rumination. Now, let's apply the sentence to the most common rumination scripts people live inside. If you are ruminating about someone who is inconsistent, your brain is trying to turn uncertainty into certainty through analysis. The decision is often a standard. What does this relationship require for me to stay calm? Does it have consistency? Does it have repair? Does it have clear communication? If not, the decision is what you do with that reality. If you are ruminating about a mistake, your brain is trying to reverse time. The decision is a repair. What is the next repair move? Apologize, learn, adjust, stop repeating. If you are ruminating about a future choice, your brain is trying to avoid being a beginner. The decision is an initiation. What is the smallest start that counts? If you are ruminating about your worth, your brain is looking for proof you are safe. The decision is to build proof through behavior, not through mental debate. You become calm by building a life that does not require constant rescue. You become confident By proving to yourself, you act. You become disciplined. By proving to yourself, you show up. These are not motivational lines. These are mechanics. Your brain calms when it has evidence. Now, there is one more layer that makes the one sentence almost unfairly effective. It reveals what you are actually avoiding. If you say, "I do not need certainty, I need a decision," and your body tightens, that is information. It means there is a cost you do not want to pay. The cost might be grief. The cost might be conflict. The cost might be disappointing someone. The cost might be being judged. The cost might be leaving the fantasy. The cost might be starting and failing. So here is the deeper version of the thought that ends rumination when you are stuck. I can tolerate uncertainty. I cannot tolerate self-betrayal. I can tolerate discomfort. I cannot tolerate losing years to this loop. I can tolerate being imperfect. I cannot tolerate living as a draft. That lands because it moves you from short-term relief to long-term respect. Rumination offers short-term relief. Decisions create long-term respect. And respect is what stabilizes a nervous system over time. Now, let's close this with a clean application that people can actually use without turning it into another thing to overthink. The next time you catch yourself looping, do not debate the content. Do not add one more angle. Do not reopen the file. Instead, ask one question that collapses the whole maze. What decision am I avoiding? Then, choose the smallest action that proves you are the kind of person who moves. If the decision is to stop checking today. If the decision is to send one clear message, send one clear message and stop. If the decision is to set a boundary, set the boundary the next time the pattern appears. If the decision is to start for 5 minutes. If the decision is to end the contact that feeds the loop. Your brain will still talk. That is fine. Your feelings are allowed. They are just not in charge. Rumination ends the day you stop treating your mood as the authority and start treating your decisions as the authority. Not harshly, calmly, firmly, quietly. Because the opposite of rumination is not positive thinking. The opposite of rumination is initiation. It is the ability to start small without negotiation. Debate is how you lose hours. Initiation is the cut-through. And every time you do it, you create the only evidence your brain believes. Proof. Proof changes identity. Identity changes your baseline. Then rumination loses its job because your nervous system no longer needs to keep you stuck in your head to feel safe. It trusts you to move. Welcome to PsychBond. You're safe here.